I'm Sarah Warren, 34, and I thought I had it all figured out. Career, finances, even those awkward family dynamics. The Lake Michigan reunion was supposed to be all laughter and reminiscing, not the beginning of my nightmare. When I checked my bank account that Monday morning, the balance read 0. Not low, 0. My fingers trembled as I called my sister, only to have her husband Mark answer. When I demanded an explanation, he just snorted. "We needed it more than you. If you've ever trusted family with your personal information, drop a comment below. Before I share how my world collapsed that day, hit subscribe to follow my journey from betrayal to justice." The Warren family had always been tight-knit, despite our differences. After my divorce 3 years ago, I threw myself into my career as a financial consultant at Anderson & Burke in Chicago. The irony doesn't escape me now. I spent my days helping others secure their financial futures while failing to protect my own from those closest to me. My older sister Jessica, 36, married Mark Lawson 12 years ago in what our parents called a whirlwind romance. While Jessica pursued her career as an elementary school teacher with steadfast dedication, Mark bounced between jobs like a pinball, retail management, insurance sales, real estate, startup ventures, never sticking with anything long enough to build stability. "He's just finding his passion," Jessica would defend whenever our parents expressed concern. I admired her loyalty, even as I witnessed the strain their finances put on their marriage. Their children became my world too. Lily, their 10-year-old daughter, inherited Jessica's artistic talent and empathetic nature. Noah, 8, was a science enthusiast who called me weekly to share his latest discoveries. Being their aunt gave me purpose beyond my spreadsheets and client meetings. Looking back, the warning signs about Mark were scattered throughout the years. There was the time he borrowed $5,000 for a guaranteed investment opportunity that mysteriously failed. The maxed-out credit cards Jessica tearfully confessed to during our sister's weekend 2 years ago. The constant upgrades to their lifestyle whenever a new job started, followed by hushed financial stress when those jobs inevitably ended. Family helps family, I'd tell myself each time I transferred money to their account for emergency car repairs or unexpected medical bills. The amounts grew larger over time, but I never questioned. These were my sister's children, my niece and nephew who needed stability. 6 months before the reunion, Mark lost his job at a marketing firm where he'd actually lasted almost 2 years. "Budget cuts," he explained during a family dinner, though the bitterness in his voice suggested otherwise. Jessica looked exhausted that night, the circles under her eyes telling a story her words wouldn't. I became the unofficial safety net, the one who could be counted on when rent was due but paychecks weren't enough. "Just until Mark finds something better," Jessica would promise, gratitude and shame competing in her expression. When our parents suggested a family reunion at their Lake Michigan vacation home, I immediately offered to handle most expenses. "My treat," I insisted, thinking of how Noah and Lily deserved a carefree vacation with their grandparents, aunt, and cousins. The family property sat on a small bluff overlooking the water, a modest 3-bedroom cottage our parents purchased 20 years ago when property values were reasonable. It had become our gathering place for holidays and summer breaks, its walls holding decades of memories. Planning the reunion consumed my free time for weeks. I coordinated menus, activities, sleeping arrangements, and even created custom gift baskets for everyone. Despite my busy schedule at work, I made time for video calls with Lily and Noah to build excitement about our upcoming adventure. "Will you bring your laptop, Aunt Sarah?" Lily had asked during one call. "Dad says you have all the best games." The question seemed innocent then. I explained I needed it for some urgent work, but promised to make time for games with her. During our planning calls, Mark showed unusual interest in my work projects. "Must be nice making the big bucks," he commented once while walking through the background of Jessica's video call. "What's your secret to success, financial guru?" I laughed it off, attributing his questions to natural curiosity, maybe even admiration. When he asked specific questions about my accounts and investment strategies, to learn from the best, I felt flattered. Family helping family, I thought. I never imagined I was giving a masterclass to the person who would destroy my financial security. The June sunshine sparkled across Lake Michigan as I pulled into the gravel driveway of the cottage. My parents, both in their 60s and recently retired, waited on the wraparound porch, Mom already wiping happy tears before I even stepped from the car. "There's our money whiz!" Dad called out, wrapping me in a bear hug that smelled of his familiar aftershave. Mom joined in, creating the family sandwich hug that had been our tradition since childhood. Jessica's minivan arrived 20 minutes later, exploding with energy as Lily and Noah raced toward me screaming, "Aunt Sarah!" Their small bodies collided with mine in a tangle of limbs and laughter. Jessica followed with a genuine smile that momentarily erased the stress lines I'd noticed during our recent visits. Mark emerged last, sunglasses hiding his eyes, carrying far more luggage than a weekend warranted. "The financial wizard arrives," he announced, giving me a side hug that felt performative. "Save any corporations this week?" The first day unfolded like a perfect family memory, swimming in the lake despite the chilly water, Dad grilling his famous maple-glazed salmon, Mom insisting everyone apply sunscreen hourly. I pushed thoughts of pending work deadlines aside, though I did sneak away for an hour to respond to urgent emails. The cottage's layout offered little privacy, a common area with large windows facing the lake, bedrooms with thin walls, and a single bathroom everyone shared. I set up my laptop on the dining table, quickly checking accounts and sending client updates before rejoining the family activities. Later that afternoon, I returned from helping Mom pick wildflowers to find Mark alone in the common area standing near my computer. He startled when I entered, then smiled too widely. "Just looking for Noah's tablet," he explained, moving toward the kitchen. "Kid can't go an hour without his games." A flutter of unease passed through me, but I dismissed it. This was family. This was Jessica's husband, Lily and Noah's father, my brother-in-law of 12 years. "No problem," I replied, closing my laptop before heading back outside. That evening, we took the family boat out to watch the sunset from the water. Dad captured photos of all of us against the fiery orange sky, images I would later stare at, for hours trying to find clues in our expressions, some warning of what was to come. During dinner, conversation turned to our careers. Mom proudly boasted about my recent promotion and bonus, information I'd shared with her privately. "How much do they pay financial wizards these days?" Mark asked, twirling pasta around his fork without looking up. "Enough," I answered uncomfortably. "Enough for what?" he pressed. "Big house? Fancy vacations? Retirement by 40? Jessica shot him a warning glance. "Mark, just curious what success looks like these days," he said, his tone light, but eyes sharp. "Some of us are still figuring it out." Later, I couldn't find my laptop where I'd left it. After searching the common areas, I discovered it in my bedroom, partially hidden under a pillow. I was certain I hadn't put it there, but reasoned that perhaps Mom had moved it while cleaning. That night, Jessica knocked on my door after everyone had gone to bed. In hushed tones on the porch, illuminated only by moonlight reflecting off the lake, she confided that things with Mark were worse than she'd let on. "He feels like a failure," she whispered, wiping away tears. "Especially around you. Your success just reminds him of everything he hasn't achieved." "I never meant to make him feel that way," I said, squeezing her hand. "It's not your fault. We're just drowning, Sarah. Every month gets harder. The kids need so much and the bills keep coming. I promised to help them create a proper budget after the weekend. We'll figure it out together," I assured her. That's what family does. On our final day, we gathered for a farewell brunch. Mom cried as she always did at goodbyes. Dad pretended he had allergies, and the kids extracted promises about when they would see me next. As we packed cars, Mark seemed unusually cheerful, even offering to carry my bags. "It's been really enlightening," he said, placing my suitcase in my trunk. The word choice struck me as odd, but I was too focused on the emotional goodbye with my niece and nephew to dwell on it. "See you soon, financial wizard," were his parting words, delivered with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Monday morning in my Chicago apartment began like any other. I savored a cup of coffee on my small balcony overlooking the city, mentally reviewing the family weekend with fondness despite the undercurrent of tension with Mark. Before heading to the office, I opened my laptop to check my accounts as I did every morning, a financial advisor's habit. The screen loaded my banking portal, and for a moment I thought there was a glitch. Where my checking balance should have displayed a comfortable five-figure sum, a stark 0.0 appeared instead. "That can't be right," I muttered, refreshing the page. The zero remained. With increasing panic, I logged into my savings account. Empty. Investment account. 0. Retirement fund. Completely drained. $187,000 gone. My hands shook so badly I could barely hold my phone as I called the bank's fraud department. The representative's voice turned from professionally sympathetic to concerned as she reviewed the activity. "Ms. Warren, these transfers appear to have been authorized using your credentials," she explained. "They were executed through your online profile using your password and security questions. The two-factor authentication was responded to from your registered device." "That's impossible," I insisted, though even as the words left my mouth, the image of Mark standing near my computer flashed in my mind. "The transfers were made on Saturday evening between 7 and 9 p.m., she continued. "Multiple transfers. To an account under the name of Mark Lawson." The room spun around me. Saturday evening, when we were all watching movies after dinner, when I'd thought my laptop was misplaced. With trembling fingers, I called Jessica. The phone rang 4 times before she answered, her voice unnaturally high. "Sarah, we were just talking about what a nice weekend." "Is Mark there?" I interrupted. A pause. Too long. "He's taking the kids to school. Why?" "Jessica, someone emptied my accounts. All of them. The bank says the money went to Mark, $187,000. The silence that followed told me everything. "Jessica? I can't talk right now." Her voice had dropped to a whisper. "Did you know?" The question came, out as a sob. Another pause. Not everything. Not how much. He said he was borrowing a little to catch up on bills. "I didn't know, Sarah. I swear I didn't know it was everything." My sister's admission hit like a physical blow. I ended the call without another word and grabbed my car keys. The 30-minute drive to their suburban home passed in a blur of tears and disbelief. Jessica and Mark's modest 2-story house looked different somehow as I pulled into their driveway. Perhaps it was the new patio furniture on the front porch that hadn't been there during my visit 2 weeks ago. Or maybe it was the gleaming motorcycle, parked in the driveway, a model I recognized from Mark's endless someday wish list. My sister opened the door before I could knock, her face blotchy from crying. "Sarah, please, let me explain." I pushed past her into the living room and stopped short. A massive new television dominated one wall. Shopping bags from high-end electronics stores sat unopened in the corner. "Where is he?" My voice sounded foreign to my own ears, tight with rage. Mark emerged from the kitchen, coffee mug in hand, appearing irritatingly calm. "Sarah, I guess we need to talk." "Talk?" I nearly screamed the word. "You stole from me, every dollar I had." Jessica moved between us, hands raised placatingly. "It's not what you think. We were desperate." "Don't defend him." I turned on her, betrayal cutting deeper. "He cleaned out my retirement, Jess. Money I spent years saving." Mark set his mug down with deliberate slowness. We didn't take everything. You still have your fancy condo, your car. Are you serious right now? The audacity left me breathless. You accessed my accounts without permission. That's theft. That's a crime. We were going to pay it back, Jessica insisted, though her eyes couldn't meet mine. I pulled out my phone, showing them the transaction history the bank had emailed me. Saturday night, 7 transfers. Every account I have. While I was sitting watching movies with Mom and Dad, Mark's demeanor changed, defensiveness replacing his casual attitude. What were we supposed to do? We're drowning in debt while you're planning luxury vacations and buying designer clothes. So that gives you the right to steal from me? Countered. We needed it more than you, he shouted, mask finally slipping. You're single with no kids and a 6-figure income. Do you know what it's like watching your children need things you can't provide? Having your power shut off because you had to choose between electricity and your daughter's medication? Jessica sank onto the couch, face in her hands. We owe $70,000 in credit card debt, she confessed. The house has a second mortgage. Mark's gambling got out of control, and then there were the payday loans. Each revelation felt like another stab wound. Why didn't you just ask for help? Because we needed more than you'd give, Mark snapped. A few thousand here and there. Wasn't fixing this. We needed a clean slate. By destroying mine? My voice broke. I trusted you, both of you. It's not like you can't earn it back, Mark continued, his justification sickening me. 1 year of your salary replaces everything. For us, it would take a decade. That money represented years of my life, my security, my future. Our shouting had drawn attention. Lily appeared at the bottom of the stairs, confusion on her small face. Aunt Sarah? Why are you yelling at Daddy? The sight of my niece, the child I'd bought birthday gifts for, read bedtime stories to, loved unconditionally, broke something inside me. These were the children whose future education I'd planned to help fund, whose parents had just destroyed my financial security. Your daddy took something that belonged to me, I said, struggling to moderate my tone. Mark stepped toward me, suddenly threatening. Don't you dare turn my kids against me. This is between adults. Is that why you have a new TV and motorcycle? For the kids? I gestured to the obvious purchases around the room. Jessica rushed to usher Lily back upstairs, while Mark and I stood in silent standoff. I'm giving you one chance, I finally said. Return my money, all of it, and I won't press charges. Mark actually laughed. Money's gone. What are you going to do about it? Destroy your sister's family? Put the father of your niece and nephew in jail? Go ahead, call the police. See how that plays out at the next family reunion. Jessica returned, panic in her eyes. Sarah, please. We can work something out. A payment plan. Anything. Just don't tear this family apart. The realization hit me then. They expected me to accept this, to simply absorb the loss because we were family, because pursuing justice would cause pain. You already tore this family apart, I said quietly, backing toward the door. The moment you decided to steal from me instead of asking for help. Sarah, wait! Jessica called as I walked out. But I couldn't stay a moment longer in the house my money had apparently saved, while simultaneously destroying my own financial security and any trust I had in the people I loved most. The drive back to my apartment passed in a blur. Once inside, I slid down against my closed door and finally allowed the full weight of what had happened to crush me. The sobs came from somewhere deep and primal, an animal wounded by those it had trusted to protect it. My phone buzzed repeatedly, Jessica's calls, then text messages begging me not to do anything rash. As if I were the one who had broken trust. As if I were the criminal in this scenario. Reality set in with brutal clarity the next morning when my alarm went off for work. I had no emergency fund, no savings. Rent for my downtown apartment was due in 10 days. My car payment would process automatically at the end of the month. At the office, I stared blankly at spreadsheets, unable to focus on client portfolios while my own financial life lay in ruins. The irony was unbearable. I helped others secure their futures while failing to protect my own assets from family theft. By lunchtime, I'd called my closest friend Taylor, choking out the story between sobs in an empty conference room. "Stay with me tonight," she insisted. "I'm coming to pick you up after work, and I'm lending you whatever you need until this gets sorted out." Pride made me want to refuse, but necessity won out. I accepted enough to cover immediate expenses, $2,000 that Taylor transferred to me on the spot. "Pay me back whenever you can," she said. "No rush, no interest." The contrast between her generosity and my family's betrayal only deepened my emotional wounds. That evening, my parents called, still riding the high of our reunion weekend. I couldn't bear to answer. How could I tell them their daughter and son-in-law had stolen their other daughter's life savings? That the family they'd raised and loved was fractured perhaps beyond repair? Jessica had been texting me throughout the day. "Mark made a mistake. We both did, but taking legal action will destroy us all. Think about Lily and Noah. They need their father. Mom and Dad don't need this stress at their age." Each message twisted the knife deeper. She was using the very love I had for our family as a weapon against me seeking justice. After 3 sleepless nights at Taylor's apartment, I made my decision. I called my parents. Mom answered, her voice bright. "Sarah, we were just looking at the reunion photos. Your father printed some for the album." "Mom," I interrupted, my voice breaking. "Something terrible has happened." The silence on the other end after I finished explaining was deafening. "That can't be right," she finally said. "There must be some mistake. Jessica and Mark wouldn't. They couldn't." "The bank confirmed it, Mom. The transfers went directly to their account. They've already spent some of it." Dad got on the phone, his voice tight with shock. "Have you called the police?" "Not yet. Jessica begged me not to." "Of course she did," he said, anger replacing disbelief. "They committed a crime, Sarah." Mom's voice returned, tearful now. "But their family. There must be another way." Even now, they were trying to find middle ground, to believe the best of both their children, to avoid the painful reality that one daughter had helped victimize the other. Mark's parents were less diplomatic when they called that evening. "We understand things are tight for you right now," his mother began without preamble. "But involving the authorities in a family matter is extreme. Surely someone in your position can recover financially without destroying lives." The message was clear. My financial security was considered an acceptable sacrifice to protect Mark from consequences. My lawyer friend Caroline laid out my options over coffee. "Family financial abuse is complicated," she explained. "The fact that you were staying in the same house, that you had previously given them financial assistance, that they're claiming it was a loan or gift, it creates gray areas. Not for me, but potentially for a jury. So they might get away." "With it?" My hands shook around my coffee cup. "Not if we can prove premeditation." "Did they plan this? Research how to access your accounts? That changes things significantly." The thought of my sister and her husband plotting against me made me physically ill, but I filed a police report that afternoon. The officer taking my statement seemed skeptical, asking multiple times if I was absolutely certain I hadn't authorized the transfers or previously discussed helping them financially. "Family financial disputes aren't usually criminal matters," he commented while filling out paperwork. "This isn't a dispute," I corrected. "It's theft." As days turned into weeks, the toll became physical as well as emotional. I lost 12 pounds. Sleep came in short, nightmare-filled bursts. Panic attacks struck without warning. In grocery store aisles, during client meetings, while watching children play in the park who reminded me of Lily and Noah. Work granted. Me emergency leave when I broke down during a presentation. unable to continue speaking through tears. My professional reputation, built on calm competence and financial acumen, now threatened by the very people who should have protected me. A month after discovering the theft, Detective Rivera called with news that sent me to the bathroom to vomit. We found searches on Mark Lawson's computer for how to transfer money without getting caught, and accessing bank accounts through saved passwords, she explained. There's also evidence he researched identity theft penalties and family financial fraud specifically. This wasn't impulse, Ms. Warren. They planned this for weeks, possibly months. The premeditation made the betrayal even more painful. While I'd been ordering special snacks for their children and planning reunion activities, they had been plotting to destroy me financially. The bank investigation revealed more disturbing details. Some transfers had been initiated at the lake house, others completed after they returned home. They had methodically emptied different accounts in specific order to avoid triggering fraud alerts, suggesting they understood exactly how my accounts were structured. Unfortunately, the bank representative explained, the longer time passes, the more difficult recovery becomes. Much of the money has already been spent or transferred to cash. Mark's behavior escalated as legal proceedings began. Late-night calls came from blocked numbers, breathing, then clicking off when I answered. After the third call, I filed for a restraining order, which was granted based on the detective's evidence of escalating hostility. Jessica appeared at my workplace unannounced one afternoon, eyes red-rimmed and desperate. Security escorted her to a conference room at my request, where I agreed to a brief conversation. Mark gambled most of it away, she confessed, her voice hollow. Paid off some loans, but then convinced himself he could double the rest. I didn't know until it was gone. You helped him take it, I reminded her. Ice in my veins where warmth for my sister had once lived. I was afraid of him, she whispered. You don't know what he's like when he's desperate. The revelation should have softened me, but it came too late. You should have been afraid of losing me instead. 2 days later, the alarm company called while I was at Taylor's. Someone had attempted to enter my apartment. Security camera footage showed Mark, hood pulled up despite the summer heat, trying to use a credit card on my lock. When confronted by building security, he claimed to be my brother picking up medication for me. Another charge added to the growing case against him. As criminal proceedings moved forward, family lines were drawn. Our aunt and uncle from Dad's side believed I should find forgiveness and drop charges for the sake of the children. Mom's brother, an accountant himself, was firmly in my corner, even offering to testify about financial abuse patterns he'd seen in his practice. My parents finally took a definitive stand after Mark's attempted break-in. This isn't the son. In law, we thought we knew, Dad said during a difficult family dinner. Jessica needs to understand that enabling his behavior isn't helping anyone, least of all those kids. The stress took its toll on them too. Mom's blood pressure rose to concerning levels, and Dad's arthritis flared from tension. Another layer of guilt Mark and Jessica had forced upon me. In the midst of chaos, unexpected growth emerged. I joined a support group for financial fraud victims, surprised to find how common family financial abuse actually was. There I met Amanda, whose parents had drained her inheritance while she was deployed overseas. Everyone expects you to just forgive because they're family, she said during coffee after one meeting, as if the relationship should matter more than the crime. Her understanding helped me process my conflicted feelings, the love I still felt for my niece and nephew, the shattered trust with my sister, the absolute betrayal by Mark. Through the group, I learned financial security measures I'd never considered before. 2-factor authentication apps instead of text messages, separate devices for financial transactions, regular credit freezes when not actively applying for loans. The irony of a financial advisor learning basic security from fraud victims wasn't lost on me. With Taylor's loan and side consulting work I picked up through industry contacts, I slowly rebuilt a modest emergency fund. Not enough to replace what was taken, but sufficient to move forward. My therapist helped me process the stages of grief, for the relationship with my sister, for the easy access to my niece and nephew, for the financial security I'd spent years building. "You're mourning multiple losses," she explained. "The money is just the tangible part." 6 months after the theft, I attended my first family dinner without Jessica and Mark present. The absence hung heavy in the room, an invisible barrier between before and after. But watching my parents laugh at my uncle's jokes, seeing life continue despite the fracture, gave me hope that some version of family could survive this catastrophe. Through my lawyer's persistence, I was granted supervised visitation with Lily and Noah. The court-appointed supervisor brought them to a park near my new apartment, a less expensive unit in a different neighborhood, another consequence of starting over financially. "Why don't you come to our house anymore?" Noah asked, his 8-year-old face confused by adult complexities. "Your dad and I had a disagreement," I explained carefully. "About money," Lily said, surprising me with her awareness. "Dad says you're being mean about money." The manipulation of their perspective broke my heart all over again. "Sometimes adults have very different views of what happened," I told them, choosing words that wouldn't vilify their father while still honoring my truth. "But I love you both very much. That will never change." As the court date approached, I prepared myself for painful testimony, for having our family's dysfunction exposed in public record, for facing Mark and Jessica across a courtroom and speaking my truth, regardless of their reactions. "You're not the same person you were 6 months ago," Taylor observed as we prepared my court outfit. "You're stronger now, clearer about your boundaries." She was right. Through meditation, therapy, and the painful process of rebuilding, I'd discovered resilience I never knew I possessed. The woman who had blindly trusted family with access to her life had been replaced by someone wiser, more cautious, but paradoxically, more authentic. I wasn't grateful for the betrayal. I would never frame trauma as a gift. But I recognized that surviving it had forced growth I might otherwise have avoided. The county courthouse loomed large on the morning of the trial, its stone facade a stark reminder of the formal judgment now required for what should have been a family matter resolved with love and integrity. I spotted Jessica first, standing near the entrance with her parents, Mark's mother and father, who had defended their son's actions from the beginning. She looked thinner, her clothes hanging loosely where they once fit well. Our eyes met briefly before she looked away, shame evident in the slump of her shoulders. Mark arrived separately with his attorney, his previously casual demeanor replaced with a suit that seemed to constrain him physically as the law was about to constrain him legally. He didn't look in my direction, focusing instead on the paperwork his lawyer handed him. My attorney met me at the steps, her confidence bolstering mine. "There's been a development," she said quietly. "Mark wants to take a plea deal. He's willing to confess to all charges if he can qualify for the financial restitution program." The program she referred to would require Mark to repay the stolen funds through garnished wages from any future employment, with legal oversight to ensure compliance. The alternative was potential jail time with no guaranteed repayment. "Will I actually get my money back?" I asked. "Eventually, yes. Though realistically, given his employment history and the amount taken, it may be partial recovery over many years." Inside the courtroom, I listened as Mark formally admitted to unauthorized access of my accounts, wire fraud, and identity theft. His voice was monotone as he confirmed the premeditated nature of the crime. How he had installed keylogging software on my laptop during the reunion. How he had specifically targeted my accounts during family activities when I wouldn't notice. My phone authentication messages. The judge ordered restitution of the full amount, $187,000, plus legal fees and damages. Based on the financial disclosure forms, an initial payment of $43,000 was secured from their remaining assets. The rest would come through the restitution program, with Mark required to maintain employment and make monthly payments or face incarceration. Jessica sat silently throughout the proceedings, tears streaming down her face. After the judge's ruling, she approached me in the hallway, her parents conspicuously absent. "I've filed for separation," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "I should have left years ago, before it came to this." The vindication I expected to feel didn't come. Instead, I felt a complicated mix of grief for what our relationship had been, anger for her complicity, and cautious hope that she might find her own path to integrity. "I hope you and the kids will be okay," I said finally, the most honest statement I could offer. "They miss you," she replied. "We all do." "Missing someone you helped devastate doesn't earn back trust," I told her. "That takes time, and actions, not words." She nodded, understanding the boundary I was setting. "I know. I just wanted you to know I'm trying to make better choices now." "I'm glad to hear that," I said, meaning it despite everything. The 12 months following the trial brought gradual rebuilding of both my finances and my sense of security. With my case gaining attention in financial circles, I was offered a promotion to senior consultant, specializing in protecting clients from exactly the type of fraud I had experienced. I channeled my trauma into education, creating a workshop on family financial fraud protection that became required training for all clients at our firm. "Sometimes the greatest threats come from those with emotional access," became my cautionary opening line. My new apartment, smaller but more secure, became a sanctuary. The advanced security system, complete with fingerprint entry and cameras, might have seemed excessive to outsiders, but represented essential peace of mind for me. Jessica and I established cautious communication, primarily about Lily and Noah. Our conversations remained focused on their well-being, avoiding the deeper fractures still healing between us. I attended Noah's science fair under the watchful eye of my parents, my first school function since the theft. His face lighting up when he saw me made the emotional complexity worthwhile. My parents found their own path to healing, attending therapy to process their feelings about having one child victimize another. "We keep asking where we went wrong," Mom confessed during a quiet dinner at their home. "If we somehow created this situation by how we raised you both." "You didn't," I assured them. "Some people make choices that have nothing to do with their upbringing." For the first anniversary of the reunion weekend that changed everything, we held a much smaller family gathering, just my parents, me, Jessica, and the children. Mark's absence was a relief, though I recognized the complexity it created for Lily and Noah, who visited their father under court supervision. Jessica had found full-time teaching work and moved to a modest apartment, taking steps toward financial independence that she had avoided throughout her marriage. "I'm learning things I should have known decades ago," she admitted while washing dishes beside me. "Budgeting, credit management, how to say no to things we can't afford." As I drove home that evening, I reflected on the painful lessons of the past year. I had learned that trust must be earned continuously, not granted unconditionally. That financial independence requires vigilant protection, especially from those who might feel entitled to your resources. That family bonds, while precious, cannot excuse criminal behavior or ethical violations. Most importantly, I learned that rebuilding after betrayal isn't just about recovering money. It's about reclaiming your sense of self and establishing healthier boundaries with everyone in your life. The money Mark stole was partially recovered, and my career advancement helped rebuild my financial foundation. But the wisdom gained through this painful experience couldn't be stolen or drained from any account. It had become part of who I was, stronger, more discerning, and paradoxically more capable of authentic connection because I now understood its true value. Have you ever experienced betrayal from someone you trusted completely? The road to healing isn't easy, but I promise you can rebuild something meaningful from the ashes of broken trust. Leave a comment below sharing your story or any questions about financial protection. If this story helped you recognize warning signs in your own relationships, please hit subscribe and share this video with someone who might need to hear it. Remember, genuine love never asks you to sacrifice your security or well-being. Thank you for listening, and may you find the strength to protect yourself while keeping your heart open to those who truly deserve your trust.